All right, so let's get to it. So Awamni, Sean, you live in the Twin Cities. I think we're all aware of what's been happening there in the, in this year and under the Trump administration and the ICE crackdown. I think people are fairly aware of what happened there. We can talk about it a little bit, but what I'm curious to hear from you about is the situation now. There was a report from Hospitality Minnesota that came out a couple of days ago, the State of Hospitality Minnesota 2026 report, a likely name, which is saying that the restaurant industry in the Twin Cities is in near collapse. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on that from somebody who's running a restaurant there and who is interacting with people who are hungry in Minneapolis and you're a restaurant owner. I know many of your employees are Native American, but I'm assuming you have some immigrant staff or you're aware of immigrant staff. What's it like now feeding people in Minneapolis, St. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, Minneapolis was definitely extremely shook by what happened. There was a lot of trauma happening on a daily basis for way too long. And so we saw it coming. We had gathered early in December to try and get in front of it, to come together we had Somali community, we had people from Ilhan's office, we had people from Tina Smith's office, we had people from food shelves, people from some of the Mexican markets, and we all gathered to try to figure out how could we communicate with each other to make sure that people are getting food, because people were already starting to get afraid. But when things really kind of hit the fan, it got bad really fast. So when Nicole Good was murdered and everybody witnessed it, and we saw what the spin that happened immediately on it, even though you could see with your eyes what happened, things really doubled down. School systems shut down. Restaurants were just barely struggling. I don't think any restaurant in Minneapolis would have survived another couple of months at most, because we were all down 60-80% across the city at that moment in time. And it was really super challenging, and we had zero safety net. There was nobody that could save us. The city couldn't do anything about it. Our police force couldn't do anything about it. The state couldn't do anything about it. Court systems were too slow. The news reports weren't really getting out what we were seeing on a daily basis, and the government was doing it to us. And so we all kind of just came together. I felt like it felt a little bit like what happened during George Floyd time, which we were also in the midst of there in Minneapolis. But we came together with just a massive amount of underground communication. Like, I had way too many signal chats going on. We knew when Greg Bovino was rolling across town with how many cars. All these things were happening all at once, And so things are better, but we haven't put on our guard, because we know what they're capable of and we know what the intentions are. So there's still a lot of watches, especially around schools right now, because I drive by them every morning. There's still a lot of people just monitoring to make sure people can get in and out of school safely, for example. And so, some of my staff were personally affected. I had 3 employees held up at gunpoint right outside of our building. One of my young staff from Ecuador was abducted, and he was in Texas by the end of the day. And he was extremely traumatized. He was in, I think, 5 different holding facilities within just a couple of weeks. And it took us some time to figure out how to get him out of that situation. And so it's really affected. And they were taking Native people. I mean, where are you going to send Native people? It was crazy. And so, it's crazy, and we know what this administration was attempting to do. They were just kind of living out Stephen Miller's wet dream, Greg Bovino's wet dream, and they were doing what they wanted to do. And I tried to use my voice, my platform. I came to DC during that time period. I went straight to Tina Smith's office, who's our senator, and just said, do not give this more money. Stop this DHS spending bill in its tracks. Because if you give them more money, this is what they're going to do. And this cannot be the reality for other cities in America. I felt like in Minnesota, we were standing strong. I felt like we were going to survive this ice storm, but we didn't want to see this happen to any other city.